Okay, here we go. We are talking about Module 4, and I just wanted to give you guys some information for the exam again. Again, this one is going to be very vocab based. You have quite a bit of vocab in this section, so I would once again make sure you have those written out, have access to them easily. You're going to have the same type of format, some fill-ins, some true and false, some multiple choice, and then you'll kind of get into your longer either listing, essay type questions. In regards to specifics in the sections, in the first section, one of the things you're going to have to do on the exam is give an example of a type of study, scientific study, in nutrition. So the types are listed on page 172. If you want to look at that ahead of time, make sure you're aware of what the types are and even have one ready before you go to take the exam. Basically, pick one type, find an example of that, and you're going to have to discuss that in the test. Not only explain the type, but also tell me about your example that you found of that type of research. So I would prepare for that. You are also going to do a pretty big essay question towards the end that discusses obesity in the United States. Obviously, you have a little bit of information in your book for that, but that is something that I do want you to do some outside research on. I specifically want you to look into things like race and ethnicity, socioeconomic status, gender, things like that, and even maybe geographical locations that you find where certain rates are higher. And the reason that I want you guys to do that is there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. One of the things I really like researching is when you talk about socioeconomic status and you talk kind of about geography. And there's a big push right now because in a lot of low income areas, especially in cities, they don't have access to a lot of the healthy options that maybe other places have. So what you end up seeing is in inner city poor areas, um, correlating to some obesity rates and some health issues because they don't have access. Like if the only food available to them is the little corner store and it's only providing chips and snacks and things like that, they don't have that access to the fresh fruit and vegetables and things like that. Obviously you can always relate to like the issue of fast food being cheaper, to go through McDonald's and get a hamburger for $1 or whatever it is, versus how much is a salad there or something like that. So you guys can kind of do some research into those different topics. Like I said, gender, race, ethnicity, uh, socioeconomic status is a big one. Geography in the United States. And then I basically said also kind of discuss changes over time that may have helped create or speed up or intensify this obesity epidemic. So that question on your test is going to require 2 outside sources. So again, you might want to do some research prior to make sure that you're ready to give as thorough of an answer as possible. In 4.2, basically one of the things you're going to see, and it doesn't really kind of outline this separately. Well, it does mention it in your book, but make sure you know that 1 pound of fat equals about 3,500 calories. And I'm going to have you guys do some discussion on this in regards to how people try to lose weight. Because what a lot of people try to do is exercise it away. And more, obviously, you're seeing more and more research out there, and you're seeing more and more people put it out there that it's so much more about your diet than exercise. But I want you to be able to kind of put that into examples. So I'm going to give you kind of a brief one, and then you guys can elaborate and kind of think on it on your own before you take the exam. But think about if somebody wants to lose weight and they don't change their diet at all, and let's say their diet happens to be at an exact balance where they're intaking exactly what they would normally burn, resting, basic metabolic rate, And so exercise is the only thing that's changing, the amount of calories. And so let's say a typical hour workout is going to range anywhere between burning 300 calories and maybe 800 calories, depending on how intense it is. So let's say you're going to burn 500 calories. If that's all you're doing, how long would it take to lose 1 pound? Well, if your deficit is only 500 calories because of your exercise every day, it's going to take 7 days to get to 3,500, which would be 1 pound. So it's going to take you 7 days to lose 1 pound, which isn't bad. But think about it this way. If you decrease your caloric intake by 1,000 calories, like let's say you normally eat 3,000 calories a day, and you drop that to 2,000 calories, which is completely doable, okay, in 3.5 days, you've got that same deficit. So in half the time. And then again, you could, if you decrease your caloric intake even more, and then you add that exercise, you can drop those pounds much quicker. And that's if you're doing a 500 calorie workout. A lot of people, when they're starting, especially if they're extremely overweight, they might only be able to burn 300 calories, in the amount of time. Like maybe they go for a walk or whatever it is. So now you're looking at, over 10 days, 11 and a half days to burn or to lose that 1 pound versus changing your diet. So you guys can kind of explore that, think about that on your own, and be ready to discuss that. You're also going to have to figure out your own basic metabolic rate. There is a calculation in your book on page 178, so you guys can kind of look at that ahead of time if you want to, just to prepare yourself, which basically tells you what are you burning when you are just sitting there throughout your day. Okay, so we are burning calories. And then obviously you can do certain things that affect that, which you'll see on that page too. So your age, your gender, physiological state, things like pregnancy or illness can change that, and your environmental temperature. So too cold, too hot, even that can have an effect. When you get into 4.3, it's talking a lot more about your body composition. Make sure you know how we can check our body fat. Make sure you know the different types of fat, how certain fats are going to give you the apple shape versus certain fats are going to give you the pear shape, and which fat tends to be under the skin versus which fat tends to be surrounding your organs. Let's see. So you're going to kind of talk about weight change and weight control in regards to all of that in one of your questions as well. Fitness, knowing what the FIT classification system is, understanding that you're talking about frequency, intensity, time, and just kind of knowing a little bit about the different, what's aerobic exercise, the effects on your cardiovascular system, how do we find our VO2 max, knowing kind of the difference between eccentric movements and concentric movements. Eccentric being we lengthen, concentric being when we shorten. And again, a lot of that is in your terminology. And then it just kind of, again, talks about some things with fitness and being able to lose weight. And then finally, in that last section, you're going to want to be able to talk about each nutrient / concept that it talks about in regards to specifically exercise and fitness. So although we've talked about carbohydrates and how do we process them and how much do we need and all this stuff, in this particular section, which you are only going to use this section in your book, you are not going to do outside research for this question on the test, is carbohydrates specific to exercise. What does it do for us? Why do we need it? How much do we need? What happens if we have too much? Does it cause a problem? Things like that. But I really just want you to use what's in your book for these. Before exercise, during exercise, after exercise, whatever it hits on in the book, try to be as thorough in that answer. This question is going to be worth the most points on the test. So make sure you are being as thorough as possible. So you'll do carbohydrates, you'll do proteins, fats, and then you will separate and talk a little bit about thermal regulation, and then do a little bit separate on hydration. And so you'll just have to be able to kind of, again, give some of those concepts and how much do we need, and how do we handle that in regards to exercise. And really, that's about it. The test is already posted, so it's available until Sunday night, like usual, and it's 31 questions. Like I said, you get to the listing questions at about, I think, question 26. So take your time on those questions. Make sure you're giving thorough answers. Make sure you're giving your sources on the few that I indicate that you need them. Make sure on the one where I specifically say only to use the section in the book that you only use the section in the book. And if you guys have any questions, as always, send me a Remind app or an email. You guys know I'll answer the Remind app quite a bit quicker because it comes straight to my phone. So happy testing.